Hi, I'm Ambassador Karen Sasahara, former U.S. Ambassador to Kuwait. I served as a diplomat for over 35 years, and I'm here today to answer your questions. So, welcome to Ask a Diplomat. Okay, first question. What is the difference between a diplomat and an ambassador? Okay, not all diplomats are ambassadors, and they don't all work for the State Department. That said, the majority of American ambassadors do work for the State Department. But we have federal employees from different agencies. It can be Treasury, it can be NASA, it can be from the Commerce Department that also carry out diplomatic activities. And what that means is when they are interacting with a foreign counterpart, advocating for a policy or for commercial or things like that, they are doing diplomacy. An ambassador is the head of an embassy in any given country. They are the senior-most representative of the US government in that country. So their job is to maintain and to expand the political, commercial, economic, and security relations between our two countries. What jobs or studies can help lead to a career in the Foreign Service? So jobs and studies that are focused on international relations, public outreach, and public policy are really, really good foundations for a job in the Foreign Service. And obviously, you want to have really, really strong knowledge of our country. But the thing that is really, really important is that you bring good interpersonal skills, problem solving, frankly, open-mindedness, and a natural curiosity. We can teach you all the other things. We can teach you the foreign languages. We can teach you how to do the specific jobs that you'll be assigned to, but you really need to come into the Foreign Service with these skill sets already, because diplomacy is about person-to-person interaction and both sides hearing each other and coming out with a mutually agreeable outcome. All right, next question. How does diplomacy affect Americans' daily lives, even if they never leave the US? That is a great question. So all of that clothing and appliances and automobiles that we get at great prices, like at Walmart, Target, or elsewhere, that is the result of very long and detailed negotiations between the United States and foreign manufacturers and governments in order to reach a price that is beneficial for the American consumer and for the foreign manufacturer. But that's not the only thing that you feel. The other thing that I wanted to mention, the number one job of every embassy abroad is to protect the welfare and safety of Americans that live and work overseas. And that means that something as simple as when they've lost their passport, we are able to replace one very, very quickly for them. If they fall ill, we can provide assistance and get them to a hospital if they need to. And in other instances, we visit Americans that have been imprisoned to make sure that their rights are protected. We visit them on a regular basis, and we assist them in returning to the United States when they are freed. How do diplomats handle administration and policy changes? So, as a public servant, you are obliged to carry out the policies of the administration. And they do change from one president to the next, but historically, they haven't really changed that much in diplomatic practice. Recent years, though, we have seen a drastic change in a number of long-standing American policies and practices. So I think in that instance, every diplomat or ambassador kind of has an internal conversation with themselves, and they're looking at what that drastic policy change is, and they're weighing that against what the policy used to be, and frankly, what some of the legal and moral outcomes of that policy change are going to be. So I think based on what legal or moral consequences or outcomes of a drastic policy change are going to be, there are going to be some ambassadors that will decide that they can no longer do the job, that they cannot carry out those policies, and that they will have to resign from their position. What's one negotiation lesson everyone, not just diplomats, could benefit from? Mutual respect and patience. Nobody wants to be talked down to, and it doesn't set the right tone for negotiations. The whole point of negotiations is to try to get what you want, the position of your government, but taking into account the needs and the context of a negotiating partner and trying to get to that conclusion, narrowing down your differences, but trying to protect as much of your government's interests as possible. Nothing screams inexperience than impatience. It doesn't work. You might as well just walk away and let the experts take over. All right, next question. What is a day in the life of an American diplomat like? Well, frankly, no 2 days are exactly alike because you never quite know how your day is going to go. And sometimes it just doesn't turn out the way you think it's going to. You might receive a message from Washington and suddenly you have to cancel a meeting, you've got to go off to the foreign ministry, and you've got to carry out that business. So you have to stay flexible. A typical day for me would be coming into the office, checking my emails, checking the cable traffic from Washington just to see if there's any new information, what's been going on in the region overnight, and just to see if there's some way that I have to adjust my schedule for the day. So typically what I'm going to do is I'll be meeting with my embassy staff, but I'm also out a lot. It's a big part of the job, of course, is diplomatic outreach. I'll be meeting with business people, NGOs, frankly, with American citizens. I might be hosting a lunch or a dinner of people at the official residence on the embassy. And I might be going to a national day that night and seeing a lot of my diplomatic colleagues and just doing that, spending time with them and a lot of other people. So it's never quite the same. Sometimes, sadly, there may be an emergency that will come up. There might be an accident. There could be extreme weather, or in some instances, there could be civil unrest. So you have to be really, really ready for whatever might come that day. What surprised you most about becoming a diplomat? I think it was the deep impact that the United States has made on the world, around the world. I think from World War I to World War II, developmental and humanitarian assistance, and frankly, the widespread American culture and the ideals and aspirations that are embedded in them. It's very humbling, and it at times is a real responsibility to live up to that. But I think that that is still the core of what we are and the core of what the rest of the world expects from us. Okay, next question. What one part of the career did you never explain to your parents? My mother once told me that parents never stop worrying about their children, no matter how old they get. So in that vein, I think I never wanted my parents to worry about where I was. And I've been to some dangerous places, Baghdad, Beirut, and Yemen. And my parents have deserved to have the peace of mind that they've earned after all those years of raising a family of 5 kids. So sometimes you're in a place where things are starting to go sideways, but you don't want to tell them that. It's always going to be all good. I think it's just limiting the types of information that you give them when things are going bad. I mean, they're reading and they're watching television, but I think it's very, very assuring that when you call them up and you say, no, CNN's exaggerating, we're having a barbecue and we're enjoying cocktails, it's all good. Okay, next question. Is diplomacy more about talking, listening, or something else? It's both, but it's more. Tactically, you want to be prepared. You want to know what you're talking about. You want to have done your homework. You want to know the person that's sitting across from you and the issues. But it's also about listening. It's about keeping an open mind, because what you are eventually doing is you are trying to reach a mutually agreeable conclusion that protects as much of our interests, but also takes into account the interests of your negotiating partner. A really good diplomat will be able to explain to their negotiating partner why their position is good and it's a win-win for both sides. Now, this is tricky, but it's important because good diplomacy isn't about changing people's minds. It's about changing their perceptions. Okay, next question. What did you do to build a sense of community in the countries you relocated to? Okay, first and foremost, I introduced myself to every single person in the embassy. That would be our American direct hires and our locally engaged staff. But not just to the staff, but to their families as well. And I think that's really, really key to building community, because a lot of our American families have left behind their extended family to go to a place where they've never been before. They don't speak the language, and they're trying to raise their families in a very, very foreign environment. So they have to feel that the ambassador and other embassy leadership is on their side and is supporting them, or I don't think we'll be able to do our job. So community is extremely important to me. How does one build trust with people from completely different backgrounds? Frankly, by being yourself, by being your best self and being the best that America has to offer. Because that's our reputation. We do what we say what we do. And I think that other governments and other countries expect that from us. It's important that you know the country, you know the cultures, you know the traditions, and when you can, if you get a chance to learn the basics of the language. Because when you are interacting in a new country, it matters a lot. It sends a signal to people that you cared enough to take the time to learn these things. And that personal relationship is very, very important. They will not only respect you, but they'll actually want you to succeed. They'll want you to get your job done. So I think that human touch, that empathy, and frankly, that curiosity is really, really important. And it is something that I think American diplomats are known for.